Islamic State seizes full control of Syria's ancient city of Palmyra, while the US is sending 1,000 anti-tank missiles to neighbouring Iraq to counter the terror group's rapid advance. There's a state of emergency in California after more than 100,000 gallons of oil spewed into the ocean because of a ruptured pipeline. And the EU appears wary of getting too close to Ukraine. A leaked draft ahead of a key summit reveals Kiev won't get a visa-free regime with Europe anytime soon. Hello there, you're watching RT International. It's just gone midday here in the Russian capital. You're with me, Katie Pilbeam. The US is rushing to send a shipment of 1,000 anti-tank missiles to Iraq, which is struggling to resist Islamic State militants. That's after militants tool full control of neighbouring Syria's ancient city of Palmyra. Earlier, the key Iraqi city of Ramadi has also fallen into the hands of jihadists, forcing the Obama administration to shift its strategy. It's been reported that the US president met top national security advisors on Tuesday, and the plan they've come up with is to focus more on training and equipment Sunni tribal fighters on the ground. The head of Denver University's Center for Middle East Studies says it will only fuel the fire.
The strategy that could be successful in Iraq in terms of defeating ISIS is not simply a question of sending more weapons. There fundamentally has to be a political strategy that can win over disgruntled, alienated segments of the Iraqi Sunni community who have given up, who have been marginalized and discriminated against. And until that plan happens, then I don't think weapons by themselves are going to change the political or military equation on the ground. ISIS really feeds off of the chaos, mayhem, the broken states in Iraq and Syria, and the fact that there's a lot of disillusioned young people who feel alienated from their existing governments, who have flocked to ISIS as an alternative sort of hope that perhaps ISIS can provide them with an ideological option that can lead them to a better future.
There are also fears the equipment the US is planning to send to Iraq may end up in the wrong hands. That happened before. In October last year, Islamic State seized ammunition and weapons dropped near the Syrian border. On top of that, the jihadists are taking full advantage of captured US-made hardware. They've reportedly captured dozens of American Humvees and howitzers. Now the US has had some bad luck pumping money into conflict zones. $500 million in military aid vanished in Yemen. That's ammunition, pistols, rifles and Humvees as well. In Iraq, they spent $26 billion only for missiles to fall into the hands of jihadists. And in Afghanistan, weapons worth $420 million went astray, including vehicles and advanced weapon systems. ISIL militants have been spreading their control through Iraq and neighbouring Syria at a frightening pace. The area in black is what's deemed to have been fallen to ISIL since April, according to the Strategic Needs Analysis Project, with the ancient city of Palmyra becoming the latest major gain for the terror group.
أو زنادا فلا تسمع فتاه حطم دولة الصنم لقد سير المسك في زمن النجوم الغر في أفق
A state of emergency has been declared along a stretch of California's coast after a ruptured oil pipeline pumped more than 100,000 gallons of crude into the Pacific Ocean. Well, here's some of the reaction from locals tweeting that the smell of oil is thick in the air. This user is outraged over the contamination of the area where he used to camp out and fish and surf, while others complain about the polluting of California's already scarce water supplies. The spill is already being considered a nightmare for the local ecosystem. The leak is said to be damaging a rare Mediterranean-style climate. It's called the Gaviota. It's an area where northern and southern wildlife meets together. Nature professor Bron Taylor thinks it's the ecological damage, well, actually, it's the last thing oil companies care about.
Companies actually are indifferent to the costs that their industry has on ecological systems and on the human communities, because they're insured for monetary losses. So there may be a financial penalty, but again and again and again and again, we see them willing to cut corners to save money, and the consequences for the human and ecological communities are grave.
The EU is not planning to introduce a visa-free regime with Ukraine in the near future. Well, that's according to a leaked draft statement by the Eastern Partnership Summit. As for Ukraine's possible membership, it's not even mentioned. More on that just ahead. Bulk data collection by America's National Security Agency is hanging in the balance. The Patriot Act is due to expand, and the Senate has to vote on whether to continue it or not. US Senator and presidential candidate Rand Paul was desperately trying to prevent its prolonging by speaking for more than 10 hours in the Senate.
The vast majority of people don't want their phone records collected without a warrant. There could be an injustice in having an entire group that ends up being subject to a warrant that's not specific. The public at large thinks that we've gone way too far with the bulk collection of records.
Well, such an exhausting performance needs some support, of course, from his parents. They were on hand with their son's TV broadcast in the background. The so-called filibuster, it was called, was aimed at delaying or even preventing a vote. The Obama administration said the spy agency would start shutting its phone record programs this Friday unless Congress decided otherwise. Senators now off for a three-day weekend, and Rand Paul's message is clear. The renewal of the controversial Patriot Act is most likely to fail. Well, this comes as a group of transparency activists launch an open database which they say will help uncloak US spying activities. The so-called IC Watch compiles information from social networks such as LinkedIn and similar websites as well, where spy agency employees, they can share their work experience. The database has already collected the profiles of almost 140,000 people. Now, we spoke to the founder of the project, MC McGrath.
Yeah, it was not at all difficult to gather this information. It's really just a few simple Google searches. If you search on Google using the site operator for LinkedIn, say site linkedin.com xkeyscore, you'll get tons of people who are mentioning this in their profiles. And as for if it should be classified or not, I think that's somewhat for the intelligence community to decide. I think that before the Snowden revelations, very few of these code words were known. However, now that the Snowden documents are public, we can know what some of these code words are, and we can use that to infer details about the other ones. The companies should be vetting their employees' resumes. Maybe the NSA should be vetting the resumes of their contractors and employees better and not allowing these code words. But with the growth of the intelligence contracting industry in the U.S., it's very difficult for the large number of intelligence contractors to function and find employees without people just posting these things on the open internet. So it's almost gotten so big that they have this vulnerability that's very difficult to close.
MC McGrath there is only 21 years old, but he's already a Boston University graduate in civic technology. Back in 2011, he was looking for a scholarship. Now he's exposing government secrets. Well, we asked him about his team.
It's 3 people at the moment, and others who help from time to time. The others are all older.
IC Watch has already attracted thousands of followers who wish to find out more about government surveillance. Sam, we're closely watching a reaction to the project in the global community ourselves. All right, still ahead, the Swiss rail industry is getting sheepish. We tell you why when we come back after a very short break. See you soon.